right. We are recording this on November 15th. We have obviously seen some pretty remarkable price action, the fiat exchange rate of Bitcoin over these last couple weeks. And it's always interesting. And I think of my, first cycle and like that speculative fervor is often what brings people into Bitcoin. And to some degree, we should embrace that sort of number go up dynamic. But I think what's equally, if not more important, is how do you then equip and enable people to actually learn more about what Bitcoin is, why it's so important, learn the tools of actually becoming self-sovereign and not just having a Bitcoin balance in your centralized exchange. And so for those watching this channel for some time, you know that Bitcoin education is incredibly special and important to me. And that is why today I am thrilled to have a very special guest on the channel. We have Oliver Porter, the founder and CEO of Jippi, which is doing some really cool stuff around gamifying Bitcoin education and spreading the orange gospel. So Oliver, welcome to the channel.
Thank you, Ian. It's so exciting to be here.
It's been a long time coming. I'm glad we have the chance to do so. Before we get into some of the really cool stuff you guys are doing, as I often do, I would love to just kind of have folks better understand your path. Like, what's your background? How'd you get into Bitcoin?
Yeah, so my story is in two parts. So the first part was the first introduction to Bitcoin was in 2015, so a while ago. And at that point, I was pretty young. I was insanely liberal. I believed that the government had my best interest at heart, all of these things. And I didn't really have any money to spare at the end of the month, at the end of the day. So there was no ability in my life to understand money, let alone Bitcoin.
Mm.
So my old boss called Jordan, was trying his best to orange pill me for a couple of years. And it took a little while. And then 2020 hit, which I think is the most recent class of Bitcoiners to be orange pilled. And that era for me, I think it was a turning point. It was a really radical, eye-opening experience to the power of the state and what they're able to do.
Mm.
So that journey of being shut in my house for 2 years and being mandated to do things by the state made me want to research Bitcoin from the freedom point. And so early interest for me was money broken. And what does that mean for me as like a working class, middle class person who has to earn a salary and a wage to live, right? And so research into Bitcoin helped me realize that money is broken, in fact. And the US dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. The amount of money printed in the COVID era, so for 2020, they printed 40% of all money ever created in a single year. So that infuriated me, like that money went to the rich and the powerful, and I was left with inflation, which is a hidden tax on the middle class, the general population. So I was increasingly frustrated, and it became to the point where I would actually just buy Bitcoin, the more ridiculous things the government said, as a non-violent protest. I would just continuously buy Bitcoin.
And that is, I think, a beautifully articulated version of what a lot of us have seen. And it is pretty incredible just the degree to which that all of that has just accelerated. I mean, I'm not quite old enough to have like really felt the brunt of like the great financial crisis. And so to your point, I do think that, all the COVID stuff was such an eye opener for people. So how did that then, so you get into Bitcoin, what was maybe a light bulb or why did you decide to start Jippi? What was kind of the problem you saw and that you're trying to solve with it?
Yeah, so let's do like an assessment of where we are. The US today, I believe, actually, I just saw cross $36 trillion in debt. So that number increases by a trillion every 100 days or around that point. So, and then over the next 5 years, every single dollar that the government spends, 50 cents of that is going to be towards servicing the debt. So what that basically means is the US is in a debt spiral and there is no escape. And I believe, and Bitcoiners believe in general, that a return to sound money is the only escape, right? And so Bitcoin is that sound money return. So what we're escaping is this debt spiral. We're escaping the inflation and the money printing stealing, because it's literally is like reverse Robin Hood. Like they steal from the general population and reward the rich with money printing. So we want to avoid that. And what I found, I think at the time in 2020, was there's almost too much content out there. It's an inverse problem now. Before, no one could understand Bitcoin, only a select few. It took a long time. Now there's almost too many podcasts, too many books, too many YouTube videos. All of this content is so broad. And so the journey of actually learning about Bitcoin is quite long and hard still, but in a different way. So my goal with Jippi is to make it as easy as possible for the next generation of Bitcoiners to understand Bitcoin. So just going through some metrics, I mean, we established that 83% of the US population they have to buy into Bitcoin. So that's around 214.3 million people. So for hyper Bitcoinization to occur in the coming years, we need to actually get better at education. And at the moment, education is broken. So learning is boring. 69% of young people find learning boring, according to Yale News. And that's an issue because Bitcoin education is challenging.
Yep.
If the young don't even want to engage in education, they're not going to learn. Two, Bitcoin education is hard. So 98% of novices don't actually understand basic fundamental Bitcoin topics. And that's according to Blockworks. And then finally, three, the barrier to entry is high. So 51% of people say a lack of knowledge is the main barrier to Bitcoin ownership. So that's the core problem set we're trying to solve, is making accessible education fun and friendly.
Makes total sense. And, obviously Bitcoin education is a topic I'm incredibly passionate about. And, at the same time, I've kind of recognized that the niche for really my channel is people that have probably been introed to Bitcoin, that are looking to kind of level up their skill set. These are not necessarily people that are like exploring it for the first time, although I definitely do have, some newbies. I've done my best to like create playlists and things that kind of step people through it, but it's a far from perfect process. And so I definitely agree on a more structured, distilled, condensed way to guide people through that path. And if you can gamify it along the way, which is what you guys are also doing on top of all of that, I think it's really important because incentives speak very loudly. And so tell us a little bit about kind of how it works and specifically around like tribe clash, really, really interesting concept. Tell us more about how it works.
Yeah, thank you. So Jippi, just to give some background about Jippi, it means actual cost in Japanese, and that is a tie into inflation being the actual cost of our debt-based money. And so Jippi is the solution to that problem because we educate the next generation on Bitcoin. I started Jippi almost 3 years ago now as a hobby project. So outside of my work, I was working for Swan Bitcoin at the time. Outside of my work there as a software engineer, I wanted to build something that I could give to my aunt, who's a small business owner, and orange pill her, or something I could give to my 14-year-old brother as a way to introduce them to basic Bitcoin topics. And so Jippi was born. And the MVP at that point, which was launched earlier this year, 3 or 4 months ago, was to provide structured education. So we would have islands of Bitcoin education grouped through experience level. So you'd have beginner island, intermediate island, and then we're still working on a mastery island. So you could send anybody through these courses and we would actually reward people with Bitcoin for their progress. And that's where you guys come in. Jolts is amazing. You offer a Lightning Rewards API. So we can really easily connect with you guys and send sats to these people through the API, which is wonderful. So that was I want to say, the foundation at which we wanted to build upon. Now that we've launched that and we have Jippi in the app stores on Google Play and Apple, the next phase is to build what I believe will be the next global phenomenon, and that is going to be Tribe Clash, and it is Pokemon Go for Bitcoin. So we have this vision of trying to onboard Gen Z and millennials whose attention span is around 8 seconds. These people are never really going to want to sit down and read a 1,000-word article or read a book or watch an hour-long video. They're going to want something that's more engaging and interactive, and that's where Pokemon Go comes in. So we were looking at one of the most successful games ever produced, which is Pokemon Go, and I was looking at metrics a few weeks ago. So in 2016, the game peaked at 232 million players.
Wow.
They have grossed 6 billion in revenue. And what's really surprising to me is that people are still playing this year. So as of March, 24% of 18 to 34-year-olds were still playing.
Wow.
And 49% of 35 to 54-year-olds were playing. So it's multi-generational. So if we can take some of the magic there and apply it to a Bitcoin specific solution, I think we're in for a winner and becoming one of the most popular on-ramps into the space.
Yeah, those statistics are staggering. Obviously, I think a lot of people listening to this, will recall some of the, some of the kind of heyday for that. But what you're saying is that heyday continues to this day, and there is something very magical about this kind of exploration and process. So, where are you guys with Tribe Clash? I see this, 30K Bitcoin sort of prize. Talk about how some of those elements are coming together and sort of where you guys are with that process.
Yeah, so let me go into some more specifics. So the game rules work as so we Jippi would release well, let's start at the beginning. So you're a new Bitcoiner, you want
Yep.
to come up and understand Bitcoin, and you have lots of friends in a
Yep.
city, for example. So you would create or join a tribe, and that tribe is just a collection of friends, a social collection of friends in a community online. And so the objective being, Jippi would actually release a territory, a real world geofenced territory in your city each week for your tribe to claim. And so someone from your tribe would have to be in that territory, boots on the ground, ready to find a Bitcoin themed beast. And we have 21 territories and 21 unique beasts, and they're themed like Sat, Sarah, Nakamoto, Nick, Blockchain Bob. There's many of these beasts, and each of them have a unique Bitcoin education tied to them. So you're learning while you're collecting the beasts. Once you're in the territory, you're going to have to search for that beast with your phone. Once you find it, the only way to actually collect it, so to catch it, is to actually answer quiz questions about Bitcoin.
Nice.
Now, the fun thing here is because you're competing with other tribes, you have to answer all questions correctly the fastest.
Mm.
The person who does that will then catch the beast. And the objective, once all of those 21 territories are claimed, there's about 5 months of game time. The winning tribe with the most beasts and territories would win whatever the prize will be. At the moment,
Yep.
we've set that as 30K worth of Bitcoin. So it's a high ticket item, and it's going to be hopefully bringing a whole bunch of new folks into this space.
That's awesome. And I think you're incorporating a number of important elements to this. There's the social and community element, there's the incentive, there's the competitive element, and you're also, naturally building on some of the dynamics that made Pokemon Go very kind of popular and important. And is there a particular geographic focus initially, or will it be how will these sort of territories and areas kind of be defined both maybe immediately and in the near future?
Yeah, so I think um, building this is a huge endeavor.
Yeah, I can
It's
imagine.
currently, yeah, we're a team of two. So myself, and I do all of the software engineering, the product, the design, the vision, and then my co-founder Brad does all of the operations and planning. So we're a small team, and to build this project is going to be huge, colossal. So
Yep.
really, we're,
Yep.
we're approaching this in phases.
Yep.
So phase one is going to be we want the MVP built, and that's where we can test it in Austin, for example, around
Yep.
events.
Yep.
So let's say there is a Bitcoin event that happens across 2 days. We would actually do like a kamikaze, shorter, intense version. So instead of gameplay being across 5 months, gameplay would actually be across, let's say, a few hours or a day
Yep.
or 2 days.
Yep.
And that way we can actually set the territories to be in or around the event space. So you
Yep.
could complete it really quickly.
Yep.
That's a really nice way of validating the hypothesis of whether or not people would play the game and if they're actually educating themselves alongside collecting beasts. Once we do that, we can then expand the game more to, let's say, one individual city like Las Vegas or like
Sure.
Austin or San Francisco, wherever. And that would be the 5 months of gameplay. So that allows people to come in and play more gradually across a longer period of time. And the territories are larger. So there's lots more to play with.
Yep.
Then the third and final tier, let's say, that we would want to make is how do we branch out from, let's say, individual geographics for cities to actually global? And that would be more of a expansive project. And I think what we're thinking with that is we would probably bring in some kind of voting process whereby you would like stake Bitcoin for your city and the city with the most votes. There would be like a
Yep.
leaderboard of 10 cities. And so you just really branch out and it makes anyone able to play the game. So yeah, at the moment we're at phase one. Tier one is where we are at this stage.
Look, as a fellow, Bitcoin startup founder, I know how that goes. You got to crawl before you walk, before you run. On that topic of, building the company, it was very exciting to see you guys go live on, um, Timestamp,
Timestamp.
correct? Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about the crowdfunding campaign that you guys are doing.
Yeah, so this is Arman. He runs Timestamp, and it's such an amazing tool. I mean, this thing is, I can't even believe the amount of hoops and things he had to go through and cross to actually make this vision into a reality, because it's a Bitcoin only crowdfunding application. So the reason it's so magical is it allows the general public as well as accredited investors to invest in Bitcoin only companies, and it's regulation crowdfunding, so that's why it's available to the public. So anybody who is a Bitcoiner and they're really bought into a vision, and let's say they have some money they want to contribute, can actually put a minimum of $2,000, but we're raising more, but can put money towards the vision or the purpose. And so it really is sort of like a micro investment. We are we just hit actually 20% of the crowdfunding goal, and we've
Very
been
nice.
going for 2 weeks. So yeah, it's early days, but we would love for more people to contribute and help us on this journey of building Pokemon Go for Bitcoin.
Super exciting. I guess on that note, where can folks go to follow you, what you guys are doing, maybe try out the kind of existing version of the app, or if they're interested in what you guys are doing and want to, become a stakeholder, where should they go for that as well?
Yeah, so you can find us online. Our website is jippy.app. That's JIPPI.app. And that site will just walk you through our vision for Tribe Clash. You can join the waitlist today. We also have our MVP in the app stores. Again, JIPPI. If you search in Google Play or the App Store, our app will come out. And that provides education combined with free Bitcoin rewards. So that's where we are with that. Once we have Tribe Clash completed, hopefully Q1 of next year, inside the same application, there'll be an option to play the game. So that's the app. The timestamp campaign is timestampfinancial.com, and that's where you can go to contribute to our crowdfunding campaign, which is live. I'm sure all of this will go in the show notes as
Nice.
well.
Yes.
So we're also on Twitter, so Jippy app on Twitter, and I am Hey Olpo. That's HEYOLPO on Twitter. If you want to follow me as well, you are welcome to reach out and to start the conversation.
Amazing. And as you said, I will put all that in the description down below. Love where you guys are heading with all of this. Any final thoughts to the audience? And one day maybe we'll have, like virtual, tribes as well. I could have the Ian All Things Bitcoin tribe competing against BTC Sessions' tribe and, all these different things.
Yeah, we're really this is the early stage for us. We're just taking our first few steps into this space, and Jippy is just beginning to make some magical progress. So we really value any support, both financial and just making noise, supporting us. So we have so many things we want to build, and it's exponential the amount of change we can hopefully bring to be one of the most popular on ramps into the space. So watch us on our journey. It's just great seeing the all-time high as well. Seeing us around 90K is a massive good signal for the space, and it feels like the perfect time to be building on Bitcoin. So 2025 is going to be a really solid year for Jippy and for Jolts.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Oliver, we'll have to do this again very soon. But for now, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Been a pleasure, Ian. Appreciate you.
Excellent.